Welcome back, everyone. As Them Boys Watch Footy, you got your boys E, TC, Waj. How's everybody doing today? Good,
Good,
good.
man. Good to be back. Season two looking fresh. Everyone's feeling fresh. Despite the weather, I think, we're got some good stuff coming on this season. Glad to be back with you two fools.
For
So
sure.
it's about time.
Yeah, it's been a while for Sir TC over here. Very glad to have him back.
Thank you, chaps. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. Good to see my favorite faces. It's time to get the lads, football going.
For sure. People, thank you again for giving us some love and support. We have now opened up our own Discord channel. You can find it in the link description in both our Spotify and our YouTube channels. It will also be linking over to our YouTube channel if you can give us some love and support there, or our Apple Podcasts, wherever you watch podcasts. But let's get into it because season 2 is going to start off with a bang. These gents have been watching football for the last few months, really diving deep into the analytics of the things, and we're just trying to put out a good show for you. So let's sit back, relax, and we're going to just start the show. So right now, we're going to bring you some hard-hitting analysis based off of the Nations League this past week. So we all had the international break. All of our favorite players in the world went to go play for their country. You had a few teams qualifying for the World Cup. You had New Zealand and Chris Wood. Chris Wood he led his team over to become one of the two Oceania/Asian participants to be able to join the World Cup alongside Japan. But really want to push forward with the biggest story is the US's failures to progress in the CONCACAF Nations League this past weekend, both against Panama and against Canada, losing into the third place game. So, gents, would love to hear your thoughts on what you saw this weekend. Start with you, Wash.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, USA just very disappointing. The Canada match, I think that was almost like a nail in the coffin, especially, not to get political, but what's been going on right now. That was kind of a nail in the coffin. I'm sure Canada was very happy. I just want to talk about the Canada match real quick. I thought that the U.S. team was very lackluster. They, of course, had that goal called offside by Josh Sargent's shot, and also Timothy Weah. I mean, I thought he was really doing a lot, and of course, being captained by Captain America, Christian Pulisic. He was, obviously trying to lead the team, but just Panama had the number, and it's the third time that this has happened, and that Panama has been able to find a way to just, morally just destroy the morale of USA. And, with the new manager in Pochettino, I think everyone was expecting great results, but as I'm sure we're going to hear later by our friend TC, that, sometimes these guys are just, they still don't have what it takes to win when it comes to the big competitions. And I think that was really proven. In the Nations League. So, and obviously Canada and Panama both. I mean, those are massive losses. The one that could be bigger if it was Mexico.
Yeah.
And of course they went to win. Disappointing, but I do still have hope they can make it a bit further in the next competition, which is of course going to be World Cup qualifiers. They have, a lot of youth in their squad. They've got, some veterans in there too. And, this is really Pulisic's year now. He's done a lot of his resurrection about him moving over to Italy and playing over at AC. So, the question is, can he and Pochettino and can the veterans like Weston McKennie and Timothy Weah, can they all come together to take this team out of this rut that they've put themselves into, self-imposed?
Yeah. No, friend of the show, Timothy Weah. Really big ups to him. Do want to bring up... Yeah, big ups. Want to bring up the point. Cecilia Waterman's goal, that came in the very final minute of play in normal time, and he went over to go celebrate with his idol. And you never see this, pundits getting into the action. It's something that was brand new, and he was able to celebrate with his favorite idol, Thierry Henry. That passion in goal. But do you want to stay on this one point before we switch it over to TC? As you said that morally Panama has been breaking. So do you feel as though these players just don't have what it takes, like, collectively? Or are you saying, like, it's the manager's job to kind of push them through, especially now that we have the new one with Mauricio Pochettino?
I mean, it's always going to be the manager's job to push them through, but at the end of the day, a lot of these guys have been playing together for years. They know each other very well, even if they're playing in the States and in Europe. They still get together. They still have, they did the Olympics. They played a lot together for many, many years. So at this point, I belong on the squad. And the fact at the end of the day is that Panama is a scrappy ass team, and they know when they're going against the U.S. team that they're going to leave everything on the line. And I don't think maybe the U.S. gives them the respect that they should be, because now they've beat them 3 times. So, they know what's going on when they go to this match. They know that the crowd is going to be right behind Panama. They know that they're going to put everything leave everything on the pitch. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's Pochettino or Jesse March. Like, no, this is on the players at this point. They need to have a mentality, because if you can't win the Nations League, it's CONCACAF. Let's be serious.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do when you play against the big dogs?
Yeah, for sure. TC, love to have you jump in here.
No disrespect to Panama and CONCACAF, but come on now.
No, I hear you about Panama, but Panama's had USA's number. Come on. What did you expect? I keep saying this. What did we expect? I said this in season 1. The expectations you guys put on this team, you think they're Brazil the way you talk about them. You know what I mean? It's like you literally think this team is Brazil. You know what? This is where they can aid fourth. This is where they're supposed to be, people. This CONCACAF is where they're supposed to be fourth place. That's what it is. As I was mentioning in our preamble, they had a lot of clear chances. Asha touched on it. They've been playing together. I don't blame the manager. I saw a glimpse of great football, which I think is going to come through as the years go on. So as they maybe get into the next cycle and hopefully look for the next competition, he's only been in the job for how many months? That's it. Let's not bring in the manager. This is about football players and then playing football and finishing the chances they have. As someone who likes to score goals on Sundays in my own little league, I know that if you have 3 or 4 chances, you got to take at least 1 or 2 of them. And we did not. And Panama did. That was beautiful to see, by the way, what you said, Eric. Beautiful to see celebrating Thierry Henry. Players get so criticized for showing emotion like that. But no one in their right mind is ever going to criticize Thierry Henry or celebrating Thierry Henry, because it's freaking Thierry Henry. He's one of the coolest cats in football. I mean, if you get to celebrate him and he takes it, come on. They know, and Thierry's one of those people who knows exactly what it's about. So that was just a beautiful moment in football, and that's what football's all about. I'm going back to what Washington said, and it kind of got me thinking, because Captain America is Captain Pulisic. That's just my thinking. I don't know. There's a little bit of Tyler Adams possibly. Yeah, that sounds like Captain America.
Yeah.
McKinney sounds like Captain America. And Christian Pulisic, he is not a Bjorn or a Ragnar. He is not. Okay, you need him to be your boat builder, your flocky, for those who've seen Viking, okay? He is the one who's going to connect you. You cannot have this
Vikings.
Okay? So this is my thinking, and I'm only saying this as an American, wanting America to succeed, finally. When we have the World Cup, it's the time. Could be the second country not to make it out of the group. Very possible.
That's still a bold one. That's a bold one. I mean, I've always believed that your most creative player should not also be your captain. I've always believed that. There's special cases for sure within football, but usually whoever is your most hard-nosed midfielder or your defender that is the most vocal, I've always felt that those two should be the ones that are leading the charge, especially the first one speaking to the ref and the first one's taking the blame within, because usually the most creative like to shy away. We've seen that in both club football as well as international, especially on the biggest stage. So I do see where you come with that, but Christian, he has taken the mantle. He's already been propelled as one of the top to see within the nation, and he just we have to roll with it. This is what we have to do. This is what the U.S. does to our stars, and kind of have to just roll with it and see how it goes.
Yeah. I think it's all going to come down to how do they do in the World Cup now at this point, because now Nations League is a wrap. They costed it. So now it's how are you going to perform when the World Cup, when the World's game comes to the shores of the United States? How are they going to perform? And if Mexico and Canada do better, Lord, that'll just cause an eternal shitstorm, within the football community out of here. So I stand on that one.
I agree. And one more note, this is why I've always compared the American soccer team to Baywatch. You watch for the women. You watch USA soccer for the women. You leave the men in the corner there. You watch them, because they're the winners right now. They have the mental fortitude. And I say that because we were asking the question earlier. And you put, and just aside, and please, I'm joking to all, because you want to support all the teams, of course. Is it a mental a mental fortitude that we need to get over. You were talking about, Panama being the same team again. So those are things that you want to start looking at how we perform in big tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pressure on us. World Cup is going to be even more pressure. And that's where I think we need to start looking at. That's what I'm saying. Our creative players, to your point, Eric, some creative players shy away from it. Other players take that responsibility and they want the ball. They want the mouthpiece, Bruno Fernandes is one of those examples you want to look at. So with Christian, I believe that he's better served. You're right. Share that responsibility. Maybe have co-captains. Like you said, exactly what you said. You look at the co-captains, so you take some of that responsibility that helps him, allows him to focus on where his strengths are. But that being said, let's see how we do. I have high hopes for this team. I think what we can do is you take learnings where Pochettino is very smart. He's a very shrewd, smart coach. He's definitely going to look at where the team had the shortcomings, going to look at the tapes, going to look at how can we build great learnings to take. We play good, fluid football. I think there's a lot of positives that we can build on, and I think that's a great thing from this, is you have an opportunity for the coach to go, great, we lost, but now how do we build from there? The best thing about USA football, you can only go up.
Oh, completely agree. I think the only thing that I'm really looking for is the goalkeeping situation is pretty bad for the U.S. right now. None of the goalkeepers that got called up have been playing any type of minutes for the teams that they've been playing for, or if they're playing, they're not playing well. Like Matt Turner, he is not playing right now. Stefan, not playing well. I'm very worried, especially because the U.S. has always typically been very solid at the back. Tim Howard, Brad Friedel. Now that we don't have that commanding goalkeeper presence and we've updated every other position, I think we're going to be in for a rude awakening if we don't have that. But don't want to stay too long and linger on the U.S. We do want to give our flowers over to a team that I thought was cooked. Mexico, I called them just one of the most disappointing teams of 2024. Their squad was just not looking strong at all to me. They had a lot of early losses, especially in the Copa America. But look at them now. They came back and won the CONCACAF Nations League this past weekend. I'm really seeing like a little bit of a turning point for them. This is literally their biggest chance to kind of right the wrongs of the last few years and really try to put the nail in the coffin and reassert their dominance over the CONCACAF region. So, gents, would love to hear where your take is with Mexico's win. TC, let's start with you.
Yeah, you said cook. They were cooking, okay? I think part of what they've lacked is, their talisman, Raul, who's been injured and had injuries, who really hasn't really had a consistent run of form, unfortunately, both club and country, and really more for club, which has really helped them. His rapid fire 2 goals were just fun to watch. I mean, his free kick was beautiful. It reminded me of myself. And then his quick fire finesse into the, 45 seconds into the first half was great to see. So I think, we spoke about this in first season about how I said they had another squad that really was in the developing phase of them, having a lot of the older guards stepped out, and having new blood really step into the mantle of taking those leadership roles, taking those leading, as opposed to coming on and playing cameo, really taking the needle and threading it like a quilt, okay? Because that's what it was. It was really great to see. Mexican football has always been very strong in the region. Please don't doubt that at all, And to have a strong Mexico, to have a very strong CONCACAF region, which is important for the region. So to see Mexican football back on the rise, I think it's nothing we don't expect, to be fair. What they've always had is the cojones, okay? Always had the cojones to do it, and that's what I've liked about them. They've always had the impetus. They're not afraid to do what it does against any team, big or small, on the biggest stage or small stage. They don't have that problem, which is something you always have to admire about them. They're never afraid, and I think, as I hand over to Waj, I think it's just something that I'd love to see American team adopt, is some of those cojones, that they have on the big stage.
It's all about this cojones. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I'm just going to echo a lot of the things that TC said. And first off, 2 words: Raul Jimenez. The man is, as I've always liked him. Now he's at what, 33 now? At a Fulham side, there's actually a very exciting side to watch. So I'm just very glad to see that he's come back in, and that the goals he scored, like TC said, were fantastic goals. Like, just absolutely fantastic. The team itself has always been a team I've enjoyed to watch. Even when they're playing bad, they still played with that dog in it, you know what I'm saying? To me, it's like I expected Mexico to win, honestly. Even when they're playing bad, I still expect them to beat Canada and USA just because they've got
That's
the
bold.
history. That, they've got the 12th man, which is of course their amazing fans. And I know it's a bold statement to say, but even like, okay, Mexico versus Panama, I'll put my money on Mexico 9 times out of 10. Not to mention that they brought a manager who has a storied background playing for the men's national team, knows how to win, and is again proven to the rest of the teams in the CONCACAF that they're the kings right now. Looking to give up anything right now. This is their third international or CONCACAF Cup in this much time. That should tell you everything you want to know about the Mexican team. And I'm more than excited, I should say, to see them in the World Cup. They got some old heads they need to replace, even like a Raul Jimenez, but they also got some young, hot boys in there that that can be killers. So let's see what they do. And yeah, I'm excited to see what lies ahead for the Mexican team.
For sure. I mean, just like you were, just want to echo a couple of sentiments. Like, you have Alvarez, who is kind of being that old head in the middle, giving them a lot of balance within the midfield for him. And then you have the old Raul, and then you have Jimenez. He is going to be starting to be really big. He just signed over from Milan. And Malagón, that goalie, is actually pretty good. I'm looking at him, and I'm like, wow, the U.S. needs to get a guy like that. But yeah, would love to give them their love. I mean, it was still a pretty hard-fought match. Panama did put up a good fight. It took all the way up until the 92nd minute with that pin to win it. But yeah, I'm a little worried about the prospects for how Mexico is looking and how desperate the U.S. is cooking right now. But we'd love to hear from our fans and our listeners. What do you guys think of the new situation that we're going into from 2025 into the World Cup going in 2026? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the two desperate situations with these two countries.
Look, I'm really disappointed at, before we move on though, one thing I'm just really disappointed at. Now, I always love the Mexican jerseys. And I gotta say, they weren't as amazing this time.
Very true. Very true.
So dear Mexico, what's up? I want to see what you got cooking for the 2026 jersey.
Yeah. What are you talking about? They look just like how we all look. They were black and gold.
Yeah, not like this black and gold though.
No, I mean, El Tri always has some very fire.
Yeah.
I love their normal green. When I was in Mexico, I was really looking for their green jerseys and couldn't find any because they were already sold out. So yeah. I was in the wrong stalls, obviously, but like Mexico, they always have some pretty fire jerseys. So completely agree with you there. So for our next space, want to do some rapid fire with you gents on how things are looking with the other nations. We had England actually just beat Latvia earlier today, but also this past weekend, they played against Albania with Miles Lewis-Skelly, wonder kid with Arsenal scoring the goal, his first international up top men's goal. That was a really beautiful thing to see, especially because he's getting a lot of interesting feedback from his fans over in the UK. TC, what do you have to say on that?
There about that kid, and you guys are Arsenal fans. What do you think about that kid? Is he that good? I've watched a little bit of him, and I think he's great, and I saw his goal. But do we not do this too fast in England? Do they not rush these kids up there and tell, like, he's a great kid, don't get me wrong, and I like the kid, and he's doing good. Are we not rushing him already? You know what I mean? And me and Marcus Rashford, like, he washed out 26.
Well, he's a defender, and this season...
he's actually a midfielder.
Well, yeah. He's actually a midfielder by trade. Arsenal plugged him into play because we had an injury crisis, but he's taken that position over. He's literally taken it against our number one signing of the summer, and he decided to say, no, this is my position. He's had a few boneheaded plays, but as well, he's stayed humble in his own way as well.
That's what I'd say. Like he's made a few boneheaded plays, but the boy just turned 18. If you look at and I really do commend the Arsenal staff and Arteta for doing this, but for both him and Ethan Nwaneri, shout out to Nwaneri, he scored an amazing goal yesterday for the under-21s. But, they kept them in a separate locker room. They are not letting those kids, grow up too fast. So to your point, TC, I think that as long as they keep their heads very level, and again, they're young, they're going to make mistakes. But even like Lewis Skelly's mother is his agent, so I think he's got that good support system around him. And as long as he can keep that, and he can stay healthy, well, then, I think the sky's the limit for him. I would like to see how he can play outside of playing the left back. But as we saw in the match, I mean, that was a beautiful ball from Jude Bellingham, and he just slotted it in like he was not, like that wasn't his first game playing for the men's national team.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, first game, first goal, 20 minutes. Let the boy come.
I mean, boys, it's also temper expectations and also not fluff up the hype. You know what I mean? He's a footballer doing what a footballer's supposed to do. Rolled in, played it. It was nice. Granted, right place, right time. Those things are things that can't be coached sometimes, right? So let's hold it there. But let's not fluff the kid up more than we should. That's what I'm saying. And I think he's great. And I don't think you guys have done that. I think in general, I'm not talking about us, I'm talking in general, the English media, especially with English kids, as you know, hype. Some are warranted, Jude Bellingham, of course. But sometimes we're like, oh yeah, this is the next, Messi, and then we don't see him again, Martin Odegaard. So
I'm not giving him too much hype and praise. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the kid right now. He's 18. He's doing what's being asked of him, and that's all we can really enjoy from him. You had the Netherlands versus Spain. You had a 2 quarterfinal leg thriller where everything ended up. What was that final aggregate? It was 5-5 with Spain winning on penalties 5-4. That was a pretty topsy-turvy match. Loving what I'm seeing with these young guns. Watching football now for as long as I have, and actually seeing from the legends of these countries to now seeing the young guns, for their club and then now for their nation, just taking the ball by the reins and just moving forward has been pretty amazing to see. You have France defeating Croatia 2-2. It was the aggregate with France winning on pens. You had Portugal defeating Denmark 5-2. The aggregate was 5-3. Ronaldo ended up with his 9th goal, which was pretty insane. That man just keeps on going at 40. You had Germany defeating Italy 5-4 on aggregate yesterday.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy match. Joshua Kimmich, that man is a baller. He is just timeless in that midfield. He started off as a defender. He moved up to midfield based off of his time with Pep Guardiola, and he's just stayed in there since. And he's just a little engine that could, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the games that you mentioned, those were all firecracker games. And I think what you've seen initially from everyone saying something about the Nations Cup is that all the teams have been going for it, have been going gung-ho, which has been all the stadiums are full, and the football has been insanely crazy. It's been really great to watch, to be fair, just looking at some of the stadiums we watch on the CONCACAF in comparison to what we're seeing there, and the football that we've seen has just been out of this world. Look at the scores that you're talking about as we're going through there and remembering some of those games that were insane. Waja, he just mentioned the one that was, the England-Spain game. You were talking about these people. These were an exciting brand of football we're seeing with teams really going for it. And that's what's driving this excitement. It's great. These high-scoring, close games that are really going right to the edge. As a football fan, that's what I want to see. I want to see that stuff where it's like, whoa, who's gonna, Italy up 3-0, or other teams up 3-0, and then that kind of stuff. It's insane. It's just, it's great to hear, and that's what I was just going through when I was hearing those scores from you, Eric. Going back to you, that's what I was remembering, that we were just so lucky to see some of these amazing games.
No, completely agree with you. It's kind of insane. Everyone hated international break from club break because we've all been saying for the past few years, even on this pod, there's too many games. TCU are in the minority is saying you should play for your country as well as for your club. This is what you get paid to do. I'm in the other camp where I'm just there's just too much. You have a full squad. You should be able to utilize it. But to their point, this year, everybody is really pushing forward and really trying to get through. Everybody knows that this is qualification time for the World Cup. So you just got to do what you got to do. Legs be damned. But want to push through with a few more of these matches, and then we can get into our main event for the show. So you had Hungary losing to Turkey. A little bit of chirping going on between Arda Güler and Szoboszlai from Hungary. That was an interesting one to see. Turkey won that 3-0, and then on aggregate won 6-1. Belgium defeated Ukraine 4-3. Greece with a new wonder kid as well, a little 18-year-old that's playing for over in Belgium right now. They defeated Scotland 3-1 on aggregate. You have Serbia moving on against Austria, and Ireland defeating Bulgaria. So any of these matchups that you guys have like a quick take on, or anything that you want to kind of hyper focus on right before we move on?
One I'd like to jump into is Scotland and Greece. A bit disappointing by Scotland. They have the talent. They've got like talent smitterings of players from around the like USA. Very similar problem to USA, although with a very smaller population and pool of players in general. But disappointing there with the talent they had. They weren't managed to overcome that, and I think that was one of the highlights that I was like, there were a couple of players that I expected more from. Some of the excuses that I heard from them, for instance, from Scotland, was a lot of football. And I was like, mate, you're a football player. And everyone's in the same place. But we're seeing like the vastness of the amount of injuries we're seeing this season is definitely adding to that argument, because you're seeing that amount. I think the other thing that one of the games that I want to touch on is how can we not talk about Portugal, okay? So Ronaldo, like you said, the man keeps scoring. I think he's the most, obviously he's got the most goals for any man international. It's something like 113 or 110 or 111 or 113 goals, if I'm not mistaken. Portugal team is the one that I'm always like, they've got to do better. They're the golden generation we lost at the end of season. We're disappointed, because they have all the talent. They have the best talent. They've got young and old. And what was interesting about that Portugal game is why I want to come back to it, is when Ronaldo went off and they brought on Ramos and a couple of other guys, but they were just so fast, so quick, so clinical. They, watching their play, they really turned it on. I mean, I think Ronaldo's great to have, but they can change their game completely. The amount of depth that Portugal have is very similar to where I believe Spain are already, but Spain are already utilizing their youth. The problem with Portugal is not, and Ronaldo's not a problem. He's one player, don't forget. He changed the way they play, They play a lot of crosses specifically for him. A lot quicker, so that they hold it up to cross it for him to get into place, He will change it up, and I think he's very adaptable, so maybe I'm being too pedantic around it. But what I liked about that, and what I liked about what you said about Spain, is very similar, is the depth that we're seeing and the youthfulness coming through with the mixture of old. I think, and I said this in our first round when we had the talk earlier, that Spanish team is as hot because they're just, everyone's turning on. You've got a nice mixture. They're playing great for their club, you said. And I think that experience that you get, this is their second competition, the experience that you get is just, it's unbeatable. And I think what you're starting to see is you're going to see a very dominant team in Spain.
So our final one, because this match is coming up tomorrow, we have Rafinha. Brazil versus Argentina, getting a little bit spicy in these Cone Bowl qualifiers. Guaranteed a win against Argentina on Tuesday. So, gents, who do you have in that match, Argentina or Brazil? Wajer, we'll start with you.
Come on, man, that's like unfair. I mean, I'm always gonna go for Brazil, but I think right now Argentina is the strongest squad, and they are of course ranked number 1 in the Common Bowl. Brazil's number 3, but yeah, still Brazil.
Abby,
I'm a loyalist like that.
I'm with Wajer, unfortunately, with this one. I'm going to go with Brazil. Neymar.
All right, PJ.
He's not playing.
Argentina or Brazil?
I mean, it's just, I feel like Brazil is like the U.S. They're not quite the sum of their parts, and I think they are definitely more talented than Argentina, but Argentina is playing better. They're in first place in qualifiers, and they still have that great cohesion. Messi, I don't care if he's in MLS, he still can pull some magic, so it's got to be Argentina.
All right. I'm going for Brazil. That is what I want to see. I love the confidence from Rafinha. We haven't seen someone talk that boastfully for Brazil in a long time. And the year he's overtaken Salah for a Ballon d'Or, and I'm loving everything that I'm seeing. So people in our comments, please let us know who do you think is going to win that match. All right, before we go into our main topic, I want to talk to you about our sponsor for today's episode. A football performance, it's more than just a skill, it's strength, and you need the right training. Dem Boys Watch Footy has partnered up with Alpha Progression to bring you this episode. The science-backed app unlocks your athletic potential. Targeted workouts, real results. We've been using the app and are quite pleased with our regime. The pro version is $12.99 a month or $79.99 a year. With the 2-week free trial, using our link, you'll get 20% off your first payment. alphaprogression.com/DBWF. The code can only be used on the website. Alpha Progression. Train smarter, play stronger. Visit alphaprogression.com/DBWF now. Want to thank those guys again. It's been a really fun app. Downloaded on the App Store this past weekend and used it earlier today to kind of get up a little bit of my results within the gym. Did some legs this morning and kind of pushing forward. So really happy that they are sponsoring today's podcast episode. All right, gents, we are going to move forward into our main event. I don't know if everyone has heard the word that USL is going to overtake MLS as the premier football league within the US. If you guys have listened to any of our former episodes, we actually had the former VP of Club Services of USL on the show. He's a really big friend of the show, and USL really big fans of their product. They're going to go into promotion and relegation in 2027 and the 2028 season. And we are going to start talking about how that's going to change the landscape of the United States soccer division for everything. So right now, USL is considered the second tier of soccer within the US, with MLS being number one. But USL has three divisions. They have the Championship and League One, and they are going to move forward into a three-tier promotion and relegation system. So right now in 2027 and 2028, we have USL's Division One. That'll be the newly launched main division within the United States. USL Championship, which is considered the Division Two, and USL League One, which is their Division Three. Teams are going to earn promotion or face relegation based on their season performances, ensuring a dynamic and competitive landscape. So, coming from their PR team, a new chapter in American soccer begins. The decision by our owners to approve and move forward with this bold direction is a testament to their commitment to the league's growth, their long-term growth of soccer within the United States, said Alec Papadakis, CEO of the United Soccer League. This is a significant milestone for the U.S. and highlights our shared vision with our team ownership to build a league that not only provides top-tier competition, but also champions community engagement. So, gents, love to hear your thoughts, especially I want to start over with you, PJ, solely because we used to work for Major League Soccer. We were always faced with the question, is the MLS going to be promotion relegation? We were always told that it's not available. It's not something that the owners of MLS want to do. They are very happy to have their franchisee system, where it's a select number of teams being able to go in by a vote. So I want to hear from you first. How are we going to see this? This is quite catastrophic within the space. So what are your thoughts there?
Oh, I want to clarify something. You said that the USL is going to overtake the MLS. What did you mean by that exactly? Because I'm not sure if I'm on board.
So MLS still has commercially higher revenue than USL. But by overtake, I mean they're also saying that they're going to be considered the number one division within the United States. They've already said that they're no longer going to be tiered under the MLS like now. So whenever you go into the US Open Cup, it is considered MLS is one, USL is two. Now it is going to be MLS 1A and USL is 1B, but USL now also has other leagues that are going to be under it. While MLS is just going to be MLS, and then you're going to have MLS academies, which are going to be like tier 3, tier 4 within the competition. That's right. The easiest way for us to explain how this is going to work within the US.
Well, I mean, first of all, beyond like we can argue about the technicalities of whether promotion relegation is good or not. I think a lot of us are like, Euro snobs and support it. But I think the bigger question beyond what that means for the USL is having two top tier leagues. I think at the minimum is going to be extremely challenging. We've seen it in other American sports, and one league ended up taking over the other. I could be wrong, but I could not imagine a world anytime soon with all the big players at MLS where USL would take over in terms of attendance or revenue or just overall significance. So that will be extremely interesting if they're actually trying to be a top tier league. In terms of the promotion relegation thing, yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I mean, there's some people that argue that, American culture might not be into that if their team falls lower, they might not support them. But we also might get some cool stories where some random rich celebrity who's like lives in some small town that's has a fourth tier team puts in some money and you see them go up. So it could be what is it, like a Wrexham type story. So there's bound to be some of that because the U.S. has money. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think really the bigger thing beyond the promotion relegation is I can't imagine 2 top tier leagues competing for like a long time. There's going to be something that, I mean, players are going to have to choose like where they're going to go. And I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts? Because I haven't seen that happen in any other countries anytime recently successful.
Definitely. Lodge, let's hear from you.
I mean, I think this exact situation has been a long time coming, having 2 leagues that are going to not have to compete against each other. And I mean, the only time I think Americans can even relate to anything like that was possibly maybe the ABA and the NBA, or with the NFC and the AFC, but eventually they just became the NFL, right? Like, that's not going to be the case here. The promotion relegation system is the way to go. Like PJ said, it's going to allow, no-name teams to actually rise up, and teams that aren't pulling their weight to fall down. And I think that's going to, in a country like America that loves competition and there's money to spend and money to burn, this is the perfect way, and the most equal way, I think, to have an equitable system that is going to grow the league from a youth stance all the way up to professional, and give a whole bunch of new opportunities and new revenue, right, to towns and cities and communities all around the nation. So I'm very happy about that. But again, going back to PJ's point, how do they fix this whole MLS versus USL thing? Like, that's got to be figured out. Like, where's Messi going to go? Is Messi, when Messi creates his team, is it going to be an MLS team, or do they want to then pour the money into another league? Obviously, just in terms of what happens when MLS starts going down in popularity, because the USL has this relegation promotion system that, which again, we don't even know if it's going to happen yet, but they're likely going to use this for women as well. So the whole USL league for both men and women is going to be more equitable for men and women in the game. And so I'm so pro for it. But yeah, too many leagues. And they've had this issue for decades. Longer than we've been alive, there've been way too many football leagues in the States because they couldn't just come together and figure out this issue that we could all see down the line was going to happen. So here we are. And yeah, I honestly don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to be a lot of money that's going to have to be thrown at this problem to fix it. And they just need to make one system. and just like everyone else in the world, right? Like, don't need to be different, America. Like, I know we love to be our individual selves, but no, now we have this issue and we got pie on our face. So let's just make the USL, the one league, absorb MLS. They get some type of pay, but who knows?
That's an interesting take.
But MLS, you guys don't have a promotion relegation system. It does not make sense. I hate the franchise system. There's nowhere else to go. There's no up, no down. There's just the middle. And that is just idiotic, especially in the world scale.
It's an interesting take, trying to keep. USL definitely won't have enough capital to be able to absorb MLS. MLS has some of the most rich owners within the US because they own other teams and infrastructure as well. They own it as well. USL, even though it is embarking on quite an ambitious journey, it is still, my main thing that I'm worried about is the soccer federation's specific proclivity to side with either the MLS or the USL. As we've seen in the past, the US Soccer Federation has kind of leaned into MLS's biddings. And even though this is a very strong way to say, hey, the free market is the free market. This is what we're trying to do. But I'm just very worried about how this could collapse within a couple of years, especially after all of the buzz that this is making. TC, I want to bring you into this really quick. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think the one positive, I think PJ touched on some of the bonuses of obviously the money. The promotion relegation system is something that's been desperately needed in that sense. Like, I think that is something that has bringing in line with its consistency with all other leagues. It was something that we were discussing the other day. I was reading as well, because it's the only league that doesn't have one. And the importance of that, I think, is something that can't be understated. I think what you have to look at, though, is the US Soccer Federation in America and in the United States has always done its own thing. Let's be honest. Whether it's the way they've done penalties or the way they've had conferences. One time we had quarters in football here. It has just been, we've done things differently. I think as we slowly start to migrate into a bigger system under a big umbrella of FIFA, something in line that allows us to be competitive and consistent with European clubs, which is what we want to get to. I think it's a necessity to start adapting that. Now, I say that with hesitancy because sometimes what's being done or what is already being done isn't necessarily the right way. And it's important to look at what PJ was saying, yet there's also another angle in which you need to look at what are some of the downsides. And I'm all for the relegation promotion as well as like this amalgamation of this. So it's an interesting place to be in.
I think a lot of questions even we're going to have is like, let's just look at the national team, right? Because we were just talking about international teams. How are they going to pick their players? Are they going to pick from the MLS and the USL going forward? And who decides who gets more? Even, and I hate to even bring up college, but then like even with the draft, how will that work? How are universities going to work?
Good point.
With the USL and the MLS, they're going to have different systems, especially with NIL. And of course, even with, again, bringing back women, they of course have had new contract negotiations, which changes the way that they get paid. So I think there's so many roadblocks that are to getting one cohesive league that could just have everything in them and just have a relegation and a promotion. And as much as we love the idea of it, like, yeah, until MLS gets on board and has their own thing, then like they're just having their own league, another D league, which, as we could see from the NBA, doesn't really work that well. And when it comes to the world's game and these players now playing internationally, now also how's that going to work? And also when you're bringing in talent from around the world, how is that going to work? I have more questions than answers.
Yeah, I think like ideally, I would say that we'd perhaps all agree the ideal system would be if the USL were affiliated with MLS and we just had a 4-tiered structure. So USL teams could go up to MLS teams would go down. I think broadly we'd be in agreement of that, but or anyone who knows, like, is that just completely out of the question? Because for me, that seems like that would be the best case scenario, but with two competing top tier leagues, there's a lot of potential problems that could go into that. So do they not have the relationship or what is, kind of the issue?
So they used to have a relationship together. They've worked together very extensively. It's just USL has decided that this is the route that they wanted to take. They want it to be different. They want it to be bold, which in free market and you have the means, you're starting to do the expansion the way that you wanted to do. Go jump. I mean, sometimes you just got to do it. We saw with the NFL, one of Waj's points with the NBA where you had the ABA, the NBA, and they merged to make their own thing. The NFL, even back in the day, there was a lot of fighting with different spaces trying to jump in. I mean, you had the AFC and the NFL, and then they merged to be the NFL like fully. So it's a very interesting space that you can take it within the United States. Whenever you have the infrastructure that the MLS has compared to what USL has, USL is within a lot of cities that a lot of other spaces wouldn't have. They're also within spaces that would be considered like pretty big market as well. So you cannot take teams around the United States and say, oh yeah, if you add them into the mix to become part of what is considered the top, they won't be able to be good within their infrastructure. Like I would love to see a CONCACAF Champions League match with different, like the Tampa Bay Rowdies versus Jamaica FC. Like that would be great, but that's not going to happen currently. That was one problem that we always ran into with the New York Cosmos when I was working with them. We couldn't make it out of the US Open Cup. And at the time, the NASL was not making any moves forward to become a part of the second division. And the only way to be able to play against different talent around the world to get the brand really noticed was to get into these Champions League matches. And because they didn't win the Open Cup, it didn't work. So as everyone has stated here, just brand notoriety, it's going to be really hard. Like a lot of people do not know USL teams. A lot of people do, but there are some very strong fans that are very big and bought into it. So to answer your question, PJ, it's they used to work together. Now they don't.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And the last thing I want to add is I just think it's going to be extremely challenging if they're like, I don't know if they're actually legitimately trying to challenge MLS. And, we shit on the MLS sometimes, and sure, it looks like I could defend for some teams out there. But at the end of the day, the MLS has grown exponentially in value. 4 out of the top 20 teams in the world in terms of valuation are in the MLS. I know that sounds insane, but it's true. If the USL is trying to challenge that, that's going to take off.
For sure. Any closing thoughts from anyone else?
That the whole U.S. soccer system is just one massive dysfunctional family, and they need to counselor.
They need to cut it? Okay, cut it.
It's just who can come in? We just need someone to come in and just do this. Arsene Wenger could fix this, I swear.
We'll love to see. But we'll love to keep that conversation going. We do have a newly created Discord for any of our Dem Boys Watch Footy listeners. And then as well, we can keep the conversation going over on YouTube. Love to hear from you about these things. But yeah, I think that'll take us right into the end of the show. Really great to be back. We have a pretty jam-packed rest of our schedules coming up. It's going to be pretty amazing. We have a few guests of the show coming on. We have a few soccer coaches from both the MLS, college football. We have some sportscasters from Golazzo coming on. Like, we have some really good things.
Cool.
So very
Is that
thankful that you guys are here for us on the journey, and we continue to want to create more with you. So with the squad, we have PJ, we have TC, we have Waj, we have E. Really appreciative of everybody listening to Dem Boys Watch Footy. Y'all have a great one. We're going to be playing that outro, Shamak, by DJ PJ. All right, peace out, y'all.
Thanks, boys.